All right, everybody, we are live with the Combatcast. Appreciate you for joining in. If you're joining in for the first time, please subscribe. We'd appreciate that. Before we get into a chock-full episode today, we got a fight night to talk about, a pay-per-view coming up, Jones retiring. Why don't we tell people we got coming up?
All right, July 5th, we will be reviewing UFC 317 or just talk about lots to talk about. Exciting card on paper, so we'll be reviewing that next week. Then July 12th, UFC Fight Night, Lewis versus Teixeira. The Black Beast is back. And then July 19th, UFC 318, Holloway versus Poirier 3. That's Dustin's retirement fight in his home state of Louisiana, live from New Orleans.
So some big fights coming up. And why don't we talk about this past weekend's fight night first? Not much to talk about. I know, Chevy, you didn't get to watch these fights. Rafael Fiziev got the victory here. I thought, he looked well, did enough to win. I don't know. You saw some highlights. Did you see any highlights of this fight? Did you want to share?
Nope.
So I just got to say potential matchups this weekend. We'll talk about it later, but Beneil Dariush, Renato Moicano, winner of that, possibly versus Rafael Fiziev. I think that could be a fun matchup down the road.
Yeah, I think that's a good matchup. Yeah.
Right,
so this card, I did see it was like there was 12 fights and 10 of them were decisions.
Yeah.
So the guy who got the TKO, their fight, they got $100,000 bonus because they got 2 bonuses, I guess. Dana just said, we're going to give them all the money. So I guess, if you're lucky enough to be one of the people that puts on an exciting fight, you might get a little extra money these days because so many of the fights are boring.
Yes. So, I mean, that's something to look forward to, I guess. If
you're the highlight I remember seeing from this card is the Iron Turtle, who I'm a big fan of. He got a win and did his little dance that he does around. That was the highlight that I enjoyed the most, I think.
Well, the main event was much like the co-main event. It was kind of uneventful. Striking fight. Khalil Roundtree, I thought was, obviously he won, but I thought the more versatile striker in this particular situation, more leg kicks. And he was also more cautious. I think he fought smart, which I think Jamal Hill was a little mad about at the end. I thought we could have gone back and forth. And Khalil's like, hey, you're a dangerous fighter. I wasn't going to take that chance. I thought, hats off on Khalil. He showed, mental toughness in there. And I know he wants to fight for a championship again as soon as he can. I don't blame him. I think the fight to be interesting, unless he's got a fight booked, is Yuri Prochazka.
Yeah, let's see it. That is fun.
Right? That's a fight. We haven't had that yet, actually.
Yeah, for real. Yeah. Yeah, I did see when they were announcing the scores, and some of the judges gave it 50-45 for Khalil, and I saw Jamal Hill going,
yeah, that's
he was not impressed with that. So that was another highlight I saw.
The thing about it is there was a lot of close rounds, I thought. So that's when we have this, discrepancies like that. So, but I thought he won. But yeah, 50-45 seems a little out there. I thought definitely go won a couple rounds. But again, not overly an eventful fight either. So is what it is. Jamal Hill, good luck, buddy. Go back to the drawing board. Hope you get in there. But let's talk about more people Chevy doesn't like, because this is the big news of the week, though. We can't take away that. Jon Jones retiring, perhaps the greatest fighter of all time, perhaps the biggest problem PR-wise for the UFC of all time as well.
Ooh, it's close.
Yeah, there's a few. Conor McGregor. Well, yeah, we got some out there, but he's had a Hall of Fame in both senses.
He is what you would call polarizing, for sure.
Yes. So I guess, do you think he got into some more legal trouble, as and I don't even know if it was anything major, but do you think because part of me thinks this, right? It's that he's going to go out of the testing pool and then miraculously just show up again here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's like, do you think we see that? I hope we don't, but
yeah. So that I would not be surprised, so Tom Aspinall now is the real champ. Thank goodness for that.
Yeah.
And so if he builds a resume worthy of Jon Jones, like I was saying before, Jon Jones should have dropped this title a while ago if he wasn't sure he wanted to fight. If he comes back, whatever he's doing outside of the octagon, he's not in the UFC. I don't care at this point. Do whatever you want, and then come back and test clean beforehand. But or don't. That's a whole nother thing. Bring all the steroids back into UFC. These cards are so boring. I don't care. Juice them all up. But anyway, that's a different around the ring topic. But yeah. And immediate title shot for him. He's earned it, with his legacy, which he has certainly tarnished on this holding on to this title for so long, and it coming out that he set terms for this fight with Tom, and the UFC said okay, and then he decided he didn't want to go on those terms. So all these claims of him ducking seem certainly more relevant now. Ariel Helwani was talking about it. Obviously, we know he's a credible news source in these instances. So tarnished legacy, you could say greatest of all time, certainly had the skills.
For sure.
But, leaving the way he did, it's suspect. Certainly the greatest light heavyweight of all time. Not even close.
And I wanted to say, to be balanced too, about this, if, we're going to talk about this man's careers, obviously everything he's done outside the octagon is a big part of that. But if you were to separate it, and even that's going to be disputed because of the steroids and everything. But if you were just to say, okay, based on just performances, to me, the greatest fight this guy's ever been involved in is still going to be that first Gustafsson fight, which was back and forth, crazy fight. And the biggest rivalry would probably be Daniel Cormier, who maybe didn't push him as far. But, Cormier definitely.
DC was old when they fought, Yeah. He was already old because he came to the UFC old. Came to MMA old, so.
Yeah, but that rivalry and that fight with Gustafsson would probably be the two biggest rivalry and biggest fight of his career, respectively. So, Jon Jones, not going to miss you. I didn't want to see you get knocked out. I will just say that. Anyone watching, if you're a fan of Jon, that's fine. I do recognize that he was one of the greatest fighters of all time, but personally, I just wasn't a fan. And I was hoping to see Tom do that. Guess we'll never know. We'll see. That brings us to the other topic. Tom Aspinall, the UFC heavyweight champion, undisputed now. I'm sure this is not the way he wanted to be the undisputed heavyweight champion, but it is what it is. Let's get this guy a fight.
Yeah, well, who's looking pretty thick these days and is very popular is Alex Pereira. So I saw he was weighing in at like 240 something pounds the other day. No Jon Jones. Tom's kind of run through most of the heavyweight division already. Pereira's not champ at light heavyweight now, and chances of him fighting and beating Ankalaev probably not super great. So why not go for the money fight with Tom? It's exciting.
Maybe try to build up another heavyweight in the meantime. But make that fight now. Yeah, I'm with you. And if Pereira catches him, hey, I love Tom. I actually don't want to see Tom lose this title, but that's the one guy I probably wouldn't be too mad about because this guy, Pereira, is just building legacy after legacy.
Right. He could run through some other heavyweights, as long as he doesn't come up against like Curtis Blades or something like that. There's not a lot of grapplers up there.
No. Tom is versatile enough that I think he would present the problems, but he engages enough where Pereira might be able to catch him.
So obviously they talked about this fight beforehand, and he said, "Oh no, first 10 seconds, I'm running over and shooting on him immediately." So, which he should. He should.
Good on him. Good on him for letting the world know. All right, let's get to it. Big fight card this weekend. Big pay-per-view. UFC 317. And it's really about this main event. This is a decent card, but this main event is what it's all about. But before we get to the main card, like always, are there any fights sticking out for you?
Yeah, disrespectful UFC. Absolutely disrespectful. Nico Price is the number one fight on the card.
Really?
He's fighting Jacoby Smith, so gotta start the card from scratch, I guess. That's gotta check out Nico Price. Terrence McKinney versus Vyacheslav Borishev. Neither one of those guys is ever in a boring fight. Both guys really like to strike. So, I mean, Terrence usually gets a knockout or gets knocked out in the first 20 seconds of the fight. So, should be fun. And then Jack Hermanson versus Gregory Rodriguez, RoboCop. Another fun one on the prelims. So,
yeah, he's good to go. That's be interesting. All
right. Let's get into this main card. Payton Talbott versus Felipe Lima.
All right. Lima is 14-1, 4 KOs, 3 subs, 7 decisions. He lost his first fight and he's won 14 in a row. He's 2-0 in the UFC. So those guys are almost like undefeated to me. Like when you lose your first fight and then you never lose again for like 15, 16 in a row, it's like, okay, that's somebody who just maybe was nervous the first time. And
that was like Chris Cyborg. Then she had a career like that.
I think she did for a long time. Yeah. But Payton, 9-1, 7 KOs, 1 sub, 1 decision. Coming off his first loss. So we'll see how he reacts to that. Fight at night 2 times. And also, I just thought this was an interesting stat. Third knockout finish. Third fastest knockout finish in UFC bantamweight history. So, it's a guy that can catch you. I don't know. I don't know enough about these guys. I'm looking at the stats. I've seen a few fights here and there, but my gut just tells me that Lima is going to find a way to win this fight. That, he seems to be mentally tough. He's already won 4. I think he's going to keep winning. And I'll say that Payton's going to have to find out how to bounce back from a second loss. But I'm going to go Lima. We'll go decision.
Yeah, I don't know much about Lima. I can't remember either of his UFC fights. So, like you said, though, his only loss was his pro debut all the way back in 2015. So 10 straight years of wins for him. Talbot is a super hyped prospect. Like you said, he just took that loss to Raoni Barcelos in January. So he was rolling through guys before that, though. So let's see how he handles the loss. I think he'll be back and get a win. Yeah, he was really cruising through guys before that. So I'm going to pick him, but I think it's a decision. Lima seems tough. So I'll pick Talbot by decision.
Okay.
All right, moving on to another interesting fight here. Brendan Royval. This is a short notice fight. Brendan Royval versus Joshua Van.
All right, Royval, 17-7, 5 KOs, 9 subs, 4 decisions. Fight at night 4 times. Performance tonight once. Joshua Van, 14-2, 7 KOs, 2 subs, 5 decisions. What do I got here? Highest significant strikes landed per minute in UFC history. So I think just looking at that and looking at Royval. Royval's a guy I think that can go anywhere with you too, but this should be possibly a pretty fun little striking matchup. Royval clearly has had the tougher competition. He's been in the UFC for a longer time. So just going with that, strength of schedules we like to talk about. I'll go with Royval here, but I'll say it'll be a good fight. I'll say it's another decision.
Yeah. So Joshua fought at the beginning of the month and got he made it to like the 3rd round and got a TKO, right. I think. So yeah, he's another great prospect, but like you alluded to, he hasn't fought anyone near the level of Royval's. And I think the guys at the top are much better than the middle of the rankings at flyweight. Like there's a big discrepancy between like the top 4 guys and everyone else, I feel like. So also the fact that this is on short notice, I'm not sure if that really makes a difference either way for them, but I guess it's worth noting. Just if we see someone have a really tough, if Van has a really tough weight cut or something, he couldn't cycle through, gain the weight and then cut the weight. And I don't know. It's just, it always is a little bit strange when that happens. So, but that wrinkle, I think I'm with you. I'm going to go Royval, just strength of schedule. Exciting fight, though. Very interesting. I'll pick Royval by decision as well.
Okay.
All right, moving on here. Potential fight of the night here. Beneil Dariush versus Renato Moicano.
Oh, Yeah, big money Moicano. All right. 26-1, 2 KOs, 10 subs, 8 decision. Fight of the night once, performance of the night once. He's tied Charles Oliveira and Brendan Allen for 4th most rear naked choke submissions. I just wanted to bring that up because he likes that rear naked choke. Beneil Dariush.
Good luck getting that on Dariush.
Yeah. 22-6-1, 5 KOs, 8 subs, 9 decisions. Performance of the night 4 times. Fight of the night once. Yeah. This should be a fun fight. Both of these guys, I feel like, really need to win at this point in their career to move up, at least to want to be in that championship contention. I really like Money Moicano. Like, he's really just a fun guy, but I feel like Dariush needs this and wants this a little more. I don't know. And I think he's just a little better all around, not like they're both really well rounded, but I feel like Dariush is just a tad better in each of those areas. So I'm going to go Dariush. I'm going to say it ends up being a firefight, and we will get a finish. I'll say TKO round 2.
Yeah, fun fight for sure. Both guys are older and just outside the elite at lightweight. Very well-rounded, but like to slug it out, which is fun for the fans. So I'm not super confident either way, but I'm actually going to pick the other way. I'm going to pick Moicano by TKO in round 2.
Okay.
Looking forward to that one, though.
Yeah, that should be good.
All right, first title fight of the night here. Alexandre Pantoja versus Kai Kara-France for the flyweight belt.
All right, Pantoja, excuse me. Pantoja, 29-5, 8 KOs, 11 subs, 10 decisions. He's the UFC Flyweight Champion. He's already had 3 successful defenses. Fight of the night twice. Performance of the night 4 times. Kai Kara-France, he's 25-11-1, 12 KOs, 3 subs, 10 decisions. Fight of the night 3 times. Performance of the night 3 times. And I want to say he's lost 2 out of his last 3 fights. Like, he's coming off a victory, but this is just Pantoja is really just starting to beat everybody in his division. And so I think that's how he ended up with the shot. And that being said, Kai Kara-France is not somebody you can rule out. Like, he is one of those guys at flyweight that can really put you out. That being said, so is Pantoja. All right, he's shown an ability to submit people, knock people out, do whatever it needs. I think this is almost similar to our last fight. I think that Kai Kara-France is going to really bring the pace. Pantoja is going to match him. And I think when Pantoja match him, unfortunately for Kai, he is the better fighter, Pantoja. And I think Pantoja will, I'll say, submit him round 3.
Okay, yeah, Pantoja's been destroying the entire division for a while, but I think this could be Kai's time. So I thought he was going to get to this title shot much sooner, but it kept, slipping through his fingers, and, he'd make a mistake at the crucial point and all that. But I think he matches up well with Pantoja. Certainly he has the power advantage, I think, too, and Pantoja gets hit. So I'm going to pick Kai by TKO in round 3, new champ. I'm hoping. That's also what I'm rooting for, so I might be picking that one with my heart. But
I'll say this. I think if Kai is going to win, it will probably be with a TKO or a knockout. I just think Pantoja, the more this fight goes on, I think he's better in more areas. But you do make an interesting point. Pantoja does get hit, and Kai does have that power at that division. But we'll see what happens.
All right, our other title fight here, the vacant lightweight title, Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira.
We've been talking about possible fights of the night, but his main event might be the lock too. Charles Oliveira, 35-10-1, 10 KOs, 21 subs, 4 decisions. All right. Former UFC lightweight champ, fight of the night 4 times, performance of the night 13 times, submission of the night 3 times. I believe I had it written down here, but he's the performance bonus like all time. Like, nobody's had more performance bonuses than this man. So he's Mr. Excitement. I can't remember the last time this guy was in a bad fight. He's extremely skilled, and he just brings it. And his opponent is undefeated. He's 16-0, 6 KOs, 8 subs, 2 decision. He was the featherweight championship. It was former featherweight champion. He decided to go up and vacate the belt because he wants to be lightweight champion. Performance of the night 4 times, for fight of the night once. This is a guy coming off finishes over Volkanovski and Max Holloway, 2 of the all-time greatest fighters at featherweight. And now he's at lightweight, and he's fighting one of the most exciting fighters of all time. This is going to be a great fight. This is quite the test for Ilia out of the gate. I'm going to go with Ilia because Ilia was able to take out Max and Volk at featherweight. And I feel like if he was struggling to make weight, then he's going to be even that much more powerful. I doubt he loses quickness. I'll say he's going to get it done, and I'm going to say he's going to do another TKO in round 3. That being said, I do want to point out, stylistically, this is one of the tougher matchups, I feel like, in the division for him, because Oliveira is a guy who can get hit, survive, and is lethal with submissions. So I would not be surprised to see Charles get a sub. And also, one other thing, even though I'm saying that at that weight class, he had to struggle to make that weight, there are exceptions to that rule. Conor McGregor was a guy who could fight and have that power and cut that weight at featherweight. But then when he got to lightweight, it didn't necessarily translate into more power. Not to say that he wasn't strong, but he had a decided advantage and looked like a completely different fighter at featherweight.
Yeah, and Charles actually, his striking has improved greatly. He hits pretty hard now too. So, I'd imagine like 90% of fans are rooting for Charles. He's a huge fan favorite for sure. Ilia is, the knockoff version of Conor with his attitude and arrogance. So definitely less likable. I know I'm certainly rooting for Charles for sure. But Ilia did hit very, very hard at featherweight. I think that power is going to transfer to lightweight. So, and Charles does get hit, like you said. He does have an ability to survive, but Ilia's seen that. He has that. Yeah. He's seen that. Ilia is very good on the ground. I don't think he'll try to. He knows Charles is very good on the ground, so I think he'll be smart and try to stay safe, not engage on the ground too much. He probably has an advantage on the feet with the power. I certainly could see a world where Charles gets rocked and then, as Ilia's coming in for the kill, Charles counters him and knocks him out or something like that. But my brain says to pick Ilia. So I'm going to pick Ilia by TKO. Sadly, I'll say round 2. I think they get after it pretty early on.
Yeah, I think you're right. All right. Well, if we're right, there's going to be some decisions, but also some fun fights this weekend as well. So why don't we tell people we got coming up one more time?
All right. July 5th, there are no fights, so we will be reviewing UFC 317. And then July 12th, it's a heavyweight main event, UFC Fight Night, Lewis versus Teixeira, 10 p.m. card from Nashville. And then July 19th, UFC 318, Holloway versus Poirier 3, 10 p.m. from New Orleans. That's Dustin Poirier's retirement fight. Couple good pay-per-views in a row from the UFC. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Please subscribe if you like what you see. And hey, enjoy UFC 317 this weekend.